like it was endless summer nights spent with you by my side. I could pretend you'd always be my lover. When you said I was your Venus, you lied. A look for the taking, close enough to see me in your eyes. Love was only ever framed. What's in your heart that you dare not speak of love? Baby, you are my uranium, slow dance, first kiss. Tell me where you hide this love. I ache for the taste and I know this love gets around. It haunts you till your heart's been found out. Love for the lack of it. You look so hard that I can't stare back. Hold me for a minute. Call me up, it's 4 in the morning just because I got my eyes on you, I shouldn't be looking. Want me like a fix, it's frightening. Threw down words like they were lightning. Could be reaching all my life. When we were kids, I closed my eyes. We put the fire out when we speak our silence. Blinded by the sight of love and violence. Costume rebellion, but with our hearts quiet. I doubt the duet. That the world can take away. Heroes we are not, our maps diverged and we're lost. We missed the signs and we paid the cost. What do you do with the madness you feel? What is essential is invisible. What do you do with the madness you feel? We dare to be ourselves. I read
Well, welcome back, guys. Welcome back to Bar Talk. I hope that took you away to another land, another world, a fantasy of epic proportions. It was a beautiful song, don't you reckon, guys? That was Iris, the title track of the phenomenal new Reb Fountain record of the same name, the sophomore record, in fact. I'm so happy because we have got Reb with us right now, all the way from New Zealand, ready to talk a little bit about, I guess, whatever we want to talk about. So, guys, please give us your biggest Bar Talk audience, they can't hear you, welcome to Reb. Reb, how are you going?
Hey, thank you so much. Kia ora. I'm doing good.
Firstly, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here, all the way across in Australia. I can't actually go anywhere outside of my house, but I can come to you on the airwaves.
I feel like we're lockdown buddying at the moment. We're all...
That's right. Tag team.
Yeah.
The
relay.
WWF of lockdown. That's right.
It's a virtual relay. So, we'll time it. So we go to the shops at the same time and buy some, feel like ice cream. We'll go to the shops and buy an ice cream. So you finish your ice cream, and then once you've done, you go tag team, I'll start eating my ice cream as you finish eating yours.
Excellent.
And then
Sure,
I'll tag
sure
someone else that's in lockdown in Sydney. And then...
Oh, no. They're just about to come out of lockdown, right? I don't want to get them back in. Jeepers.
Don't jinx them, Reb.
No.
I mean, speaking of jinxing, you must have said to yourself before your brand new record, Iris, has just come out, going, this is going to be a success. It's going to be number one on the New Zealand albums chart as of now. And look, you've made that dream come true. You're currently sitting at the top of the, I just saw the top of the NZ albums chart and the overall chart in New Zealand as well. You're at number 3. So I just want to say congratulations, first of all. You must be bloody stoked about the thing.
It's great. I mean, it's people are listening, even though we're at home, and that's a beautiful thing. I feel very grateful. It's kind of funny. I'm behind Doja Cat and Drake, and I got a lot of laughs out of that.
I did, but yeah,
just grateful.
I did see that. So I don't know what that sort of gives away in terms of the musical tastes of the Aotearoa community.
Look, it's diverse, let's just say.
Very clearly.
It's a good thing. Good thing.
No, it isn't a bad thing. And I guess it's, when you're up there with, competing with these internationally renowned artists that may have a couple more followers than old Reb Fountain.
Just a few, yeah.
But I'm sure you're definitely catching up.
The good thing is I don't really think about it like a competition. I think if I did, then I'd feel really elated or really disappointed a lot of the time. So for me, it's a bonus that people are listening, and I feel grateful for that. And it's cool to get excited, but it also doesn't mean anything either, So just best not to get caught up in the crowd.
Whoa, Reb, calm down. I only appreciate nihilistic comments in the last third of my interview. Just depresses everyone. But no, I get what you mean. It's it's a case of not trying to focus too much on the materialistic side of it, and more about what I guess people really enjoy about the record to a certain extent.
It's really easy to get lost in a rock and roll dream, and then you just can feel pretty disappointed and think that maybe you're a failure. But the best thing that you can do is just do your work and do it with love and hope that other people enjoy it. If they do, that's just a beautiful bonus.
What's been the most interesting comments, or maybe the most unexpected comments you've heard about the record thus far in the week as of recording since it's been released? There's sort of people making sense of it, comparing it to the last record. So last year I released a self-titled album called Reb Fountain, and so there's credits.
Been some thank you, yeah, some comparisons with that, and they've talked about the confidence, I guess, on this record. So not hugely different, or they don't feel that it's hugely different. They feel like there's just more of a confidence. It's more of an extension, and yeah, I mean, maybe maybe that's true. It's always interesting what other people say. It's somebody's truth. There's been some cool people trying to work out what the lyrics are. What was one? Questions like, "Is that gay?" Just trying to make sense in their own minds. So yeah, I mean, I like how people try and make sense of things and create meaning out of your work, and hopefully it resonates with them. And for some people it won't. That's cool too.
I mean, it's kind of interesting that you're saying people are sort of trying to interpret the lyrics. Is it interesting to see maybe your audience perhaps thinking about things maybe even more than you thought about them consciously? because you talk about people saying that you're more confident in this record than you were with your self-titled debut. So has that something that's been thought of consciously in your own mind, that you feel more at home? Or is it really, do you think it's maybe subconscious, or do you think people are maybe thinking things that you weren't?
Oh, no, I definitely think that too. I mean, hopefully as an artist, you're always kind of growing and developing. And last year for me, Red Fountain was really this line in the sand moment where I felt like I could commit to myself and my music in this new way. But at the same time, we were kind of going in and making it up as we went along. And it was Dave's first time producing with Simon Gooding. And so we were still exploring and creating a sound. But since then, you know, we played a lot together as a band, and Red Fountain didn't have that sort of band structure in the same way. So when I wrote Iris last year at the same time that we were releasing Red Fountain, you know, I kind of knew all those songs, and I was creating all these new ones. We went and recorded it in September of last year. And then we went bang into playing Red Fountain album release tour, and we toured over summer and Crowded House, and we kind of were focusing on that. So it's really only been in the last couple of months in lockdown where I've been able to make sense of these songs that I wrote last year. And like, you know, people asking me what they're about, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm still working it out, you know. And I think in a lot of ways you always are kind of uncovering new meaning in the things that you've written or that you've kind of been open to creating. And but it's definitely this album has felt like it's got a strong rhythmic backbone. We've got a band now, you know, and that really comes through the connection that we have, the fact that it was created during this time of tension between isolation and connection, and we went away into the sort of middle of nowhere and recorded the record tucked away, and so yeah, that's made a definite imprint on the shape of the record, and yeah, I guess you could call that confidence.
In a roundabout way, yeah. I mean, I guess as you say, you feel like you're growing as an artist, which I think is an excellent accomplishment to have, I feel, to continue that growth. But I want to touch on something you mentioned there, which sort of follows on from what we've been saying about these sort of, you've sort of been able to gauge meaning from your songs quite a while after writing them. Are there any examples on the record, or maybe even on your previous record, where that's been the case, where you've gone, something's clicked suddenly and gone, oh, so this is, I finally get it. This is what I was writing about. Can you think of any examples?
Well, I guess with this record, it was more about the overall theme, and it wasn't necessarily an instant click, but just this sense of coming to terms with what I was trying to create, you know. And for me, that was this kind of archetypal hero's journey, this story that felt kind of mythological, but also is very current and present day, and that somehow that universality could resonate with folks and everywhere, you know, that I wanted that, you know, you can only ever share from your perspective of what the world looks like and what you're seeing, and but it's good work to try not to be too essentialist and open up to others' perspectives and other narratives if you can. So I guess becoming aware of the story that I was trying to tell took me a little time, because we had all this other work to be doing. And in a way, I feel like I'm just exploring them. But you kind of do that every night you perform. You're embodying this song in a different way, and the meaning can change and evolve over time. And I love that about live performance.
Actually, let's speak about live performing, because I was going to think about bringing that up. I see in the last year or so you've been very lucky, as you said before, to tour with Crowded House, as well as Nick Cave. I saw as well. We didn't tour with Nick Cave. We did a Nick Cave, like a tribute show, sort of. I misread, guys.
But I mean, that would be cool if Nick's listening.
I thought, when did they let him out of his cave in wherever he is at the moment to come down to the other side of the world? But
that would be a good thing. He heard about the show and he was really stoked. He liked that we opened the show with Rings of Saturn.
Okay.
But yeah, that's as close as I've got to Nick.
Oh, okay. So yeah, the degrees of separation are narrowing. That's
Yeah, that's right.
that's something we can tick that off the bucket list. But what have also I was going to say in the last year or so since you have put out that first record, what have you been trying to aim with your band now that you've got them together with the live shows? What experience are you trying to create for your audience?
Well, for me, it's really important to be present and that through staying present in myself, I can connect more fully with the audience. And then in that moment, we can experience something that's really magical and transformative. And in order to do that, it takes quite a lot of work and energy and effort to hold a space, to hold a space so strongly that you're bringing all of these people with you. And you've got to commit to yourself. And I like the idea that perhaps I can reflect something for people that perhaps they could find that experience in themselves too, because it's pretty powerful to and challenging to step into your own light and say, I'm going to, have my own back enough that I'm going to do this work, or I'm going to create this thing, or I'm going to believe in myself. And I feel like in that moment, that's what we are doing in the present, and that resonates for people when they're watching, and so obviously there's playing music and enjoying it and listening to it live, but when we go out there as a band, we're together and we trust one another, and we're here and we're going to fucking kill it, and and
put that on an inspirational quote poster.
Yeah, so much about connecting with the audience. It really is. But it, every audience is different. Every audience member, and finding a way to feel like we're all on the same journey is when you're winning.
How much do you think that comes down to, as you say, as I was saying before, experience with your own personal, practice doing gigs over the years? And how much do you think maybe is contributed by the fact that you now have, by the sounds of it, a very committed band? Or maybe is there something else that's largely a factor there? What do you usually put that down to as far as improving that connection with the audience?
There's never one singular thing, right? It's always a combination. And I know that my personal journey has meant that I'm in a place where I can commit to this work, which means that I can hold the band together in a different way than I might have been able to do 10 years ago, or that I'm prepared to do a certain level of work to achieve a certain level of performance,
Yeah.
Or it's like any art. And I don't do that alone at all, but I have to be strong in myself so that when I'm in that team, we're all contributing to the greater goal. So yeah, it's complex, but that being human is complex too, and I love that.
Yeah, well, that's not you're not really wrong there. It's a very complex world right now, Rab. Things feel like a bit up topsy turvy, as I'm sure a lot of people appreciate. But I guess it's all part of the shared experience. Perhaps
for me, last year felt like we were going through this incredibly transformative collective experience in the world where we're pushing through some really serious shit and awakening to some inequities and injustices, and facing ourselves in a new way. And that's kind of where Iris was born from, that sense of transformation. In the same way, we've got this resistance now to that change too, and there's this real push-pull going on. And that's the classic human experience, really.
That push and pull between these, what feels like, I guess you could say, unquantifiable forces between whatever's going on at the time.
Well, you can see it right now. There's this real polarization of ideologies and this sense, when I think about where I was born, North America, that's my country of birth, the USA. There's this real split right down the middle, and it's heartbreaking to have that. It feels like I'm being pulled apart, It's quite fracturing and painful. And I guess what I am interested in is finding ways of creating wholeness and bringing people together, maybe in an unexpected way.
I was going to say this brings up an interesting topic that a lot of people have had to face in the last year because of how much everything's changed. But how do you deal personally with when things get as overwhelming as they are? You know, you're mentioning there about you're sort of almost taking on the struggles of what other people are feeling, you know, for what's happening in America or whatever else might be going on. What do you find is some good, you know, maybe either methods or good tips you use for yourself for just self-care when you need to just look after yourself rather than worrying about everything else that's happening in the world? Like, how do you usually manage that?
I've been practicing the art of self-parenting for a long, long time. I guess that idea that you try to stop the negative talk and being abusive to ourselves, which we are, right? We just say the most horrible shit to ourselves, and we treat ourselves in a way that we often would never treat anyone else. And it makes you sick and it makes you sad and it's not good. And I guess from a relatively young age, I realized that I wasn't feeling okay and that I needed to do something to sort of be free of what felt like the shackles of suffering. You know, we can get really lost in the story of trauma and it's very difficult to get out. But I guess I found this way of like picking myself up, you know, and practicing that every day. Now that's not to say like I think about it like it's not a religion. It's you know, it's not even a story. It's more just that idea of being a little bit more self-loving than you might otherwise, and learning how to do that. It's almost like the hardest thing to do is to love oneself. You know, what does that even fucking mean? You know, so for me, it's a balance between sort of that self-care and action, and just negotiating, riding that wave every day. And some days you feel like you're slipping under and others you're on the crest of it. So, but you just keep going. You know, like I had a friend who I played music with for about 10 years and he suicided a few years ago. And a bunch of us got a tattoo of a feather, and my kids have both got this tattoo, and it's sort of this reminder that will stay, you know, a reminder that will stick around and be here, even though it gets hard, because it's hard for everyone. You know, we all face it, but in our culture, we don't really talk about it very much. We don't know how to reach out and connect with people. So, yeah, that's what I practice, is trying to be kind. And, you know, music's a way of one of the main ways in which I make sense of the world.
I was going to say it's not too often you hear women talk about saying it's hard to open up. Like usually the focus is, and quite understandably, on guys, on blokes, on men, because that's always been more of the stigma. But it's probably the same for women as well. So it's a case of it doesn't matter who you are, your sex, gender, you know, your background, you know, where you've come from. It's always important to share your feelings where it's healthy and make sure you're, as you say, balancing that self-care, making sure you're not getting too overwhelmed, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's overwhelming. Like all of us right now, we're in lockdown and it just, some days you feel like you're just sitting staring at the wall, or, you know, you're beating yourself up for not doing enough, and you're feeling unproductive, or you're pushing yourself to the limit because you feel like you should be doing something and you get exhausted, and they're, you know, just kind of these natural tendencies and spirals that we get into. But, you know, over time, I feel like the more you can practice being self-loving or caring, and taking responsibility for yourself and your actions, and learn how to do that, then the easier it gets. You tend to go deeper into the dirt. And you can't do it alone. Like, I don't know, therapy or books or friends, or, you know, you need a village or an assortment of tools to help you learn in life. And music is one of the ways that we can do that, right? It's for me, it's always been a form of expression that's been a safe one, as opposed to all the other things that you can do, right? That are more detrimental or self-deprecating kind of behaviors. And so this was the one, the one positive one that took me a while to really focus on.
Yeah,
I had to stop all the other ones first.
No, that's fair, yeah. And I'm more on that topic too. Lifeline, give them a call if you just need someone to chat to. 13 11 14 if you're in Australia. And I always laugh because the New Zealand number's a lot longer. Lifeline Aotearoa is 0800 543 354. They could make it 6 numbers as well, could they? I always find it funny. You know what I find funny? The fact that New Zealand numbers appear to be longer than Australian numbers, even though you've got a quarter of our like a fifth of our population. What has everybody got? 15 phone numbers over there.
We've got a lot of brain capacity. We just feel like we can add a few more numbers. You know.
Here we go, folks. Here it starts. Couldn't keep the rivalry. Couldn't keep the
and you're rolling up your sleeves, Daniel.
Out of it.
Look, I don't have that. Luckily,
for the purposes
when you're a migrant, you just always feel like you're out of place everywhere, even if you're home.
I was going to say, for the legal purposes of keeping all my Australian fans on board, there is no rivalry. There is no animosity here. No. But it's I get what you mean. Yeah, you were born in America, you've come across to New Zealand. Yeah, so I guess it means you're more of a global force, so to speak, Reb.
It's that sense of othering that we do all the time, right? We're right, you're wrong. Fuck that, you know? Like, we're all in this together. We really are. You know, what's going on in Afghanistan is it's really our back door. So we've got to care about one another. Yeah, you know, and saying that, and saying that New Zealand is a pretty amazing place to be.
I wanted to talk a bit about, because you've been sort of mentioning it here and there, about more like the theme of what you were trying to do with the record, because it sounds like almost the concept behind it. And whilst it didn't come across to me when I was listening to it as a concept record, the way you describe the themes and the idea of calling it Iris and what that implies and entails seems to carry with it the air that there is a concept going on here. There is a very solid theme that you really wanted to carry throughout the record. So I was hoping maybe you could give us a bit more insight into that theme and why Iris as an idea and as a concept stood out to you maybe more than whatever else you were thinking of making the album about, if anything else did cross your mind.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was writing Iris last year, and I did it really just, for the mental health and practice of writing a song a day. So I was like, you've got to write at least a song a day. And some days I'd write, several songs, and other days it would be just an absolute strain to find anything to get inspired about. And I didn't have an intention to write a record. I was just like, if I come out with one good song, that'll be a good practice.
So it sounds like it's a happy accident then that you've come so soon off relatively speaking, but especially in a pandemic, to come straight off album number 1 into album number 2, just a year later.
Yeah, well, I guess it was part and parcel of that, because so many things were happening at the same time as I was writing. I was writing every day. There was this, we kind of spurred on this Save Our Venues push, because there was all these venues who were going under, and we wanted to do something in order to try and save them. So got involved in that campaign quite heavily. And I was thinking about, the responsibility that I have as an artist to care for my band, my team, and the community. Like, if I did something like make a record, that small seed would then mean that a year later I'm helping support venues and crew and audiences to be entertained, and us to have a job. So really, out of kind of just doing it for my own sake, I decided that it would be a great thing to make the record, because it would mean we'd have something all have something to do and experience in a year's time. So there was this, it was very compressed, and I've never written like that before. After we were able to see other people, Dave Kahn and I did a lot of pre-production work together and narrowed the songs down, and I would rewrite parts and wrote some new ones. And then we went into the studio, and there was a couple that didn't make it onto the record because we ran out of time as per usual, So all the songs are individual and different. There's not like, this is not a concept album, but certainly because they were born of this very compressed time and this kind of unusual space, I think that it is thematic in that way, that there's a thread through the songs. And each one is slightly different, but overall, I guess when I was talking about the hero's journey, the story of Iris is sort of not a very well-known mythology. She's this messenger to the gods. She takes messages from the gods to humanity and back, and she kind of crosses this rainbow bridge. And I was slightly getting lost in mythology and old stories, many stories. Like you'll find like biblical references on the record, or mythology, different kinds of narratives, and also many that are from our current day, because I like that idea that we're just this tiny blip, in civilization, and at some point the stories that we hold to be true today will become myths in themselves, and that we create these huge constructs to kind of make sense of the world. And so I liked that. I like playing with that. The opening track, Psyche, was based around this idea of, what if I kind of mapped Psyche's journey onto our journey? She goes deep into the underworld, and what if that was us? What if this journey that we're all collectively on is just a story, and what would that look like and feel like musically?
I was going to say, we're venturing very close to getting into nihilistic reference number 2. Watch out, Reb. After five, you pay for five nihilistic references, you get the 5th one free.
Thanks so much.
You get
for
a
bonus.
free Nietzsche quote generator. But no, I mean, it's a cool idea. And what I was thinking was, is it possible that you yourself, are attracted to this idea of this sort of literally I can't say the word, mythologized. I think I pronounced it.
Yes, you did it.
Thank you very much. Mythologized messenger. Do you feel that there is that personal connection, that as a musician you're telling these stories that may not be centered around yourself, or it can be I'm trying to think of the right word, not taken ownership of, for want of a better term, when your audience really attaches themselves to certain songs? They go, this I can feel this. Do you feel like you're acting as a bit of that, as Iris yourself, as the messenger?
I hope that I'm not that self-absorbed that I would think that. I guess I just want to be open. It balances out the Nietzsche.
It's all good.
Thank you. Like, I want to be open to whatever comes. And I feel like with music or with art, when you are open to yourself and exploring yourself, then you can create and evolve in a way that might be meaningful or instructional or resonate with other people. Because the only way that I'm going to create something that connects with you is if I'm in a space where I've connected with myself first, unless I'm making algorithmic pop music, which I'm really interested in too. But like, how do you find ways into people's psyches? How do you connect with them? And you can do that in multiple ways. Lyrically, though, I like the idea of the sort of universal story. I grew up with folk music. I grew up going to church, and I was, Mary in the Christmas pageant. And so, those doctrines that are really hard to shake, they do mean something to me, or I understand them. And I think it's easier to tell things about yourself in story form than sometimes is to tell straight up, Like Iris for me was this opportunity to speak my unspoken, to share my story in a way that I hadn't before. But I'm not going to necessarily just tell you what it's like. I'm going to share it with you in a musical way, because I don't want to. I don't want the message to be so strong that you can't find yourself in there. You know, we have to find all of us in there.
It's keeping that universality. Yeah. I have to say, on the topic of the meaning in that, I have to admit, good job. I don't know how intentional you were or conscious you were with the album art choices, but I know I may be overinterpreting it here, but I'm going to try my best. The light, which looks like the iris of the eye looking back at you, almost sounds like, you know, like the iris is watching down on you. And I don't know, like, whether it might be representing, I don't know, your audience, or whether you're trying to, you're visually showing off the song that the iris is, I guess, presenting. I can't really describe it. It's a bit, it conceptually, it kind of works in the head, but I don't know. Is that kind of what you were going for the album art? To have this light that looks like the iris shining down at you?
I really like that. That's what you took from it. And in many ways, yes, you know, for me, live performance is like the nexus of all the work that I do, because you really have to take all of those tools, the things that you practice every day, the work the art that you're creating. For me, I'm always so nervous when I go on stage. So from when I was young, I'd have to work so hard to be able to stand in front of people, but it's also my favorite thing to do. So really to be in that space, it's like everything collides, and that's why it's fucking magical. So those images were taken by my friend Steve Whedon when we were playing live at the Mercury Theatre, and it was the Reb Fountain album release tour that they were taken from. And they were just these moments that felt like connected to the album artwork from the first record, Reb Fountain, but also showed off all those things that you were saying, that just the gaze of the audience or me out into the world, and that reflection and light, and all of that stuff. So I really like that made an imprint on you.
Yeah, no, I saw it and I thought, oh, wait a second, there's something going on here. No, it's cool. It's cool though, yeah, and it's good to see the concepts visually pairing the music as well. Speaking of visual concepts, the Iris, the previous song we played, you had a video come out recently for it, which our dear station manager was hooked on instantly and shared it on the page. But you said, you were telling me before we recorded that you had a lot of fun shooting it. So I was hoping maybe you could tell us a bit about that. Yeah,
Lola Fountain Best, who's actually my daughter, she made all the music videos for this album and for the last one as well. And you know, we're like lo-fi, doing these on the fly often. And this one we, you know, had to do during lockdown. We were very fortunate to have a Super 8 camera and some Super 8 film, and we had these ideas, and we went down and spent a couple of days at the beach down the road, and it was great. The thing about Super 8 film is, or any film, is that you never know what you're going to get till it gets developed. And so, and like there's flares on the film, there's bits that were cut out that you thought that were really good.
Yeah.
The lighting is always a little bit dodgy. She did such a great job. And so we kind of, we had some different stories that we wanted to tell, the many faces of Iris, and then piece them all together. And yeah, we made, I think it was three rolls of 3-minute film, made the video that's 6 minutes long. So it was heaps of fun. We had a great time. I got to dress up.
Yeah,
a lot.
It's a bit of lucky dip with those old film cameras, because you never know what. You're right. You never know what's going to come out good or not. So
it's such a great medium, and then we use it all the time, but it's not always an option. But we've done another one on Super 8, and I really love film. Like the images on the cover of the album are film 35mm as well, and yes, it's aesthetically pleasing, and I'm really proud of the video. It looks cool.
So did you say that the album photo was a 35mm photo?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
That's why it's so grainy. It's like that's real effect. It's not something that we've placed on there.
So is there something apart from what you were just saying there about it? Is there some what is it that is really what draws you towards still going for that analog style? Because you could cop out and just we'll add it in post. Let's do it digitally. What's the advantage that you think digital? Well, so what's the advantage that analog film and analog cameras have that digital hasn't yet quite been able to capture?
Well, when you do things, let's say, on the cheap, it forces you to be creative, right? Because you don't have $100,000 budget or a $10,000 budget to create a music video or something like that. So you have to think of other ways, sometimes be okay with imperfections. And I love that about film, that although a film can be quite expensive, it's this great limitation. It creates boundaries for you and unknowns and uncertainties. And there's an unsteadiness in it that's kind of exciting. And it is like live performance. It's not going to be, I don't want it to be perfect. I want it to be engaging and interesting and vibrant and alive, and for me, film has that same quality.
Let's talk a bit about the actual recording process, because you were telling us before that you went pretty much, you went pretty remote, you said, for the recording. And I see you recorded at Sublime Studios with Dave Cann and Simon Gooding. What was the conscious decision-making process behind choosing that location and those producers specifically?
Well, both Dave and Simon co-produced the Reb Fountain record. Dave I'd worked with on and off for years just musically, and Simon, he had worked on all my other music. Years before that, been in my band, and then as he became an engineer, he'd worked on stuff, he'd mastered works, and so we had these kind of long-standing relationships, but this was a very new sort of project. And I knew with this one that I wanted to do the same thing, like that we would bang out Iris quickly, that it felt really important to not just record it soon, but release it in this time, in this current climate. And I wanted us to grow from what we'd done previously. So as soon as we could, we went down to Sublime, and Dave's cousin runs the studio. It's a winery as well. If you get a chance to go, I'd highly recommend it.
So that's important. You want a nice.
Most of them go to.
What's better than getting behind the? I don't know what guitar do you play? Wait, do you play? I probably should.
No, it's fine. I did play, but just acoustic on this record.
Okay, so what acoustic were you playing when you were recording?
A Yamaha FG.
See, people don't think Yamaha acoustics, but honestly, they do a wonderful job.
Yes.
Yeah.
They have a lot of Sublime is run by Dave's cousin and his wife, and it's a beautiful winery. There's chooks and sheep, and they make lovely food, and you can go for walks with the doggies in the morning and then just go into the studio, and it's really bespoke and amazing equipment, a lot of analog equipment there as well.
Yeah.
And just has this great vibe where, you pop your slippers on and you're at home and you're doing your work, and it felt like we could work till whatever time we wanted to. And there was just this freedom, and we were all together in this space after being separate for such a long time that had it felt quite magical. And then, we could go out for our walks in the middle and have this space. No one was called off to do a job or had to go home to feed the cat or whatever. None of that stuff. We were just there and present. So it had a huge impact on the sound of the record, I think.
I was going to say, well, actually, before I do, I was going to make a joke before about like, oh, yes, winery. So that was definitely the maker of that was definitely the deal sign. It's like, right, get in there, go on your Yamaha, have a glass of Sauv Blanc next to you, or whatever they whatever they usually. I don't know what.
Actually, I have to say I'm usually a single malt person, so I was generally single malt and then a wine later.
Okay, I like your style, Reb, but yes, single. Actually, yes, the album is definitely a Scotch drinking kind of record. I can definitely see that. When you're out there, when you're going for a good choice of single malt, is it something local? Do you usually go for like a Scotch? What's the preference there?
I do like it, like, you know, the sort of Lagavulin, or I like the peaties, like Lefroy as well. Mm-hmm. But I am trying to, like, I do love the Thompson's New Zealand whiskey, and I'm definitely trying to open up and be more adventurous. Yeah, I'm not an expert, but I will happily sip and revel and enjoy.
That's it. If you're not enjoying it, what's the point?
Yes, exactly.
But you mentioned about the analog equipment too. So did you end up recording it on tape?
No, we did not record on tape, but we did use some of the equipment, and like the old huge Space Echo, which was awesome, and bits that we knew how to work.
Oh, they had a reverb box.
Well, not necessarily. Yeah, like a Space Echo, like the big original ones,
right,
which is very cool.
That's a technique that you don't hear about too often.
Yeah,
anymore.
You can get the pedals, obviously.
Yeah.
But there was kind of quite a mix of things, because Dave had his Mellotron and OB synth, and we had that sort of stuff. And then we were, for some of it, like Swim to the Star, we were in there. Earl and I were in there just playing like cans and rustling and using whatever materials we could find to create sound. And so there was all of that.
What was that organy sound in Lacuna, by the way? That was probably my most favorite sound.
That'll be a combo of the Mellotron and the OB. That
sounded great, I had to say. That's like, I was listening to that. That sounds cool. I don't know what it is, but it sounds cool.
Yeah, Dave's very good at that. He's been getting a lot better during lockdown, playing with his noises.
Hey, you can't complain about that.
No, it's awesome.
Actually, this when you speak about Swim to the Star, because that was the only cover on the record, and then it's a Peggy Seeger, I see, song. So was Peggy Seeger one of those artists that you grew up listening to, was it? That you always wanted to emulate in some respect? I did grow up with folk and country music, and certainly probably more, or I guess I just read her autobiography. Yeah. And I was, I've definitely been inspired by her, but I didn't know this song. Dave had brought it to me, and we'd sort of talked about it and thought about it, and then we just ended up performing it when we were doing the Reb Fountain stuff, and we ended up performing it on RNZ, our national radio program, and Peggy's partner actually heard it on the radio because she lives in New Zealand, and she got in touch with Peggy and said, "Hey, there's someone did your song. It sounds amazing." And she wrote me out of the blue and said, "I heard that you did this song. I'd love to hear it." And so I ended up sending her the album version and the song that we recorded on the radio. And I have to say, it was just mind blowing, and having her write me several times, I was completely starstruck. I think I was more like Pete Seeger, Woody Guthrie, Bob Dylan, that's the kind of music that I'd grown up with. But Peggy was very much in that same vernacular. And I was very honored, not only that she contacted me, but that she gave her full blessing for us to do this song on the record. I just would love to see her. Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say there must be, there's something satisfying about that when you've reinterpreted another song by a very, very accomplished singer-songwriter, and they appreciate, they're good enough and generous enough to publicly appreciate what you've done.
Well, the song is so pertinent to our times. It's written about the Titanic, but it's just this the Swim to the Star just resonated with me so much, and with what's going on with us at the moment, and how we think about one another and ourselves, and that the ship is sinking. What are we going to do? It's so beautiful and poetic, and it was a great honor to sing it.
Actually, all right, okay. Sort of silly fun question that doesn't sound silly. Sounds kind of more serious than it probably should be. Apocalypse is happening. World's going to end in 24 hours. What do you do? The ship's sinking very, very quickly.
Do you know, I'd probably stay at home. I've got my dog here. I've got my kids here, and just huddle around. Maybe play some cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to play some cards. I'm always calling for cards and board games, and I can get no one to do it with me. So, yeah, maybe some canasta, Kaboo, some 500, some poker.
You're really going to pull that card on them. I've told you, you never play cards with me. You're never going to get to play them again.
Yeah, I'm sure. And maybe some sing-alongs. Yeah, that would be nice.
Interesting. That's very, very stoic, Reb. I do.
What the fuck else am I going to do? There's a tidal wave coming. There's a hurricane. It's, I don't know. God is coming down. Yeah, what are we going to do?
Yeah, it doesn't depend. The answer doesn't change depending on said disaster, does it?
Said disaster.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it could. We might have less if there's a tsunami near my house. Yeah. It just might be like a whole lot of just take a breath and deep dive. I don't know.
Learn how to. It reminds me of that
in many ways.
It reminds me of that old
coming.
joke about the end of the world, and then the one I'm talking about. Like the Catholics go and then they say, "Oh, we've got to repent to God," and then the head imam in Mecca is like, "Oh, you got to forgive yourself or whatever," and then the head rabbi he goes, "Oh, big floods coming in 30 days. Gives you 30 days to learn how to swim underwater." And that's that joke, yeah?
It sounds like something that I've heard before in the late 80s.
It's probably from then, yeah. And I'm skipping over it. So this is going to be like that Seinfeld episode where, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah,
That's not a buoy. But
I feel like I just saw that recently. Yeah. But the weird thing is that I feel like that is happening right now with climate change. And if anything, we've just got to fucking give a shit. We just have to give a shit because it's when we're apathetic, when we think that money or power or, ownership is more important than connection and caring in the earth. That's why we're going to sink and go under. That's our giant iceberg right there.
Third nihilistic reference.
Oh, yeah, I'm trying to get my bonus point. Okay.
There's got to be. I'm sure someone's created a bot Nietzsche quote generator. They've done one for the Kanye West or whatever, like random Kanye quote generator. Surely there's got to be like a bot one where it's like AI written. They just fed it every Nietzsche book or whatever essay he wrote, and then you press generate, it comes out with an AI generated quote. Surely that's been done.
I'm going to definitely swat on my Kanye quotes for next time.
Oh, just have placards going on and
for sure.
Yeah, aim to have at least 3 said per interview. I like it. All right, so hopefully, I think so. I don't know how long you guys have got in lockdown at the moment. Whether old Jacinta's got many plans for you to finally come out soon. But once you guys do, what's on the cards for the band? Is there going to be some shows to celebrate the launch belatedly, or have we got something else planned in the works?
Look, I want to get the fuck out of Dodge as soon as we can. I think we've got a tour planned, but at this stage, it's looking like we'll be postponing that till next year, and that's okay because we'll just add more shows. And I've got great plans to come to Australia many times next year. I'm so looking forward to it. So hopefully we'll be gracing your beautiful shores as soon as we can. I'm double vaxxed and ready to go.
That's good. Get vaxxed, guys, if you haven't already.
It's really, really, really fascinating here. I know there's people that are scared and unsure about it, but if you are a little bit nervous or hesitant, just book an appointment with your GP and go and talk to a professional. Don't go on Facebook.
Very wise words.
That was my Jacinda Ardern
Yeah, that was lifted verbatim from her speech the other day. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good, and I'm very much looking forward to hopefully seeing some of these songs live in person and playing the part of said Iris.
It'd be my great honor to come and play them for you. And yes, definitely. And as soon as we get over to Melbourne, I will be in touch. Or actually anywhere.
I will dress up as a spotlight just to mess with you, and we can cosplay and play dress ups of your album cover.
Yes, it will be like the song Fox Sprite on the album, which has this sort of idea of, being a rabbit in the headlights. And you can be that headlight. There you go.
Yeah, you can get the bunny ears going,
Classic.
Just whip open your. It's like, I've got my Playboy memorabilia right here in this drawer. I'll get out the bunny ears.
Oh yeah, no, I don't have any of that. But I do love the burrow. Yes.
Yes. Nice. So we are going to actually play one of the tracks off the record, which we haven't really talked about yet. Which is okay because we're going to get you to talk about it right now. It wasn't one of the singles. It's called Invisible Man, and you said you had a bit to say about this one. So yeah, I was going to say maybe you could give us a bit of a chit chat about this.
Yeah, well, I wrote Invisible Man last year during lockdown, and I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoyed walking the quiet streets, especially at dusk. There was no cars on the road, and you'd wander around, and I had this idea that I was a car, and I could go in the middle of the street and go round and round the roundabout with my arm out like I was signaling, and it was on one of these nights after I'd been listening to Bob Dylan's Murder Most Foul, had just come out, and was quite obsessed with that song and with that record. And my friend David said, why don't you write a song called The Invisible Man? And as I was careening around the roundabout, pretending I was a car, this song came to me. And it was, I guess, in that moment where everything made sense. The sort of the ghosts that were haunting me, the things that I was yearning for and longing for that weren't there, and then took shape in the invisible man in my rearview mirror.
Right. It's interesting because I know there's this not neurological condition, but this psychological condition that happens where people that are either alone in unknown spaces and I know mountaineers have this. I think it's called third man syndrome, where they're people that are usually climb up the mountains in pairs. There'll be this presence nearby of this third man, this invisible man. So I don't know maybe whether you were having your own little third man syndrome moment, playing cars around the roundabouts of your neighborhood. Maybe,
yeah. Will I disappear when you're not around is one of the lines in the song, and that sort of sense of missing something that maybe wasn't there in the first place, and on a personal and a macro level, I suppose, longing for the way things used to be. But maybe they were a bit of a mirage. Maybe they were just an illusion anyway.
No, the old rose-tinted glasses, Reb.
Yeah, so I'm very perky. Always positive. That's me.
I love it, Reb. It is a great record again, and honestly, congratulations with everything that's happened so far, and all the best. Hopefully, Doja Cat or whatever her name is can be sedated, and the catnip that is Reb Fountain's Iris can scoot
I'm not
up.
even on TikTok, so there's no way that I can compete with Doja Cat, but I don't need to. That's the great thing. I don't need to.
Oh, you've brought this around full circle. It's not a competition. I love it. I love it. And then that circular note.
Bookend. There we go.
Reb Fountain, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hallelujah. Yeah.
Praise the Lord.
Cheers, big ears. Cheers.
Reb, it's been a pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure going into depth with you about the record. And again, hopefully we can see you down here in old Melbourne town sooner rather than later.
So as soon as we can come, we were hoping to come some time ago. So when we can, we will, and I'll let you know for sure.
Yes. Reb, we're going to play the song now. So why don't you do us the honours and tell us the name of the song and who you are?
Kia ora, Reb Fountainaho. This song is called Invisible Man.
Trying to shoot the invisible man. Lines are down, hearts are lost. You don't need me. Dial disconnect. That was always the plan. Searching for remains of the day. In the moving pictures, we make no sense. Will I disappear when you're not around? Meter's been running since the world went wrong. Dallas spinning out our favorite song. Can't think of nothing else since you've been gone. Come back to haunt me. My heart is racing, but I'm standing still. I want you near me, but you never will. Be careful with the stars that I leave behind me. Come back to my home. Aim to shoot the invisible man. The streets are empty, I pretend I'm a car. Keep left, round and round about. The night creeps in. Check my rearview mirror, he isn't there. In the moving pictures, we make no sense. Will I disappear when you're not around? Meter's been running since the world went wrong. Dallas spinning out our favorite song. Can't think of nothing else since you've been gone. Come back to haunt me. My heart is racing, but I'm standing still. I want you near me, but you never will. Be careful with the stars that I leave behind me. Come back to my home. Will I be with you and in paradise? Girl like me don't ever get what she likes. Roll my windows down, I close my eyes. Haunt me tonight. Don't doubt it, honey, that I did you wrong. Broke the record when they played our song. Thought I'd call you shadow at the break of dawn. Feel so empty since you've been
AustralianMusiciansRadio.com